What is up, wrestling fans? I am Jason Burgos for SportsNot.com, and I have the pleasure of being joined by a man that will be the featured star of the new Apple TV Plus series Monster Factory, where he will pull back the curtain on one of the best professional wrestling schools in the business, and that is the one and only Danny Cage. Senor Cage, as one tri-state guy to another, thank you for the time today.
What's up, my brother? How you doing?
I'm fantastic. I was excited to talk to you because, okay, so I'm a longtime fan of the sport. You know, I like to count myself as one of the smart fans. So I'm
Right.
intrigued by the behind the scenes stuff. Love shows like Tough Enough. But it seems like there's a varying level of people inside the business that want to protect it. It differs from person to person. When Apple first reached out to you about this show, were there like reservations, or was it more like, there's some bad schools out there. I need to show the world what a good school is.
No, there was no reservations whatsoever because I believe what's holding professional wrestling back is not pulling the curtain back. Because there's a lot of fans that don't suspend that disbelief because if they do, everybody's going to go, it's not real, right? It's that I don't want to be duped. I don't want to look like that.
Mm.
But in like movies and TV, everyone knows that, so everybody can dive right in. But in pro wrestling, they're trying to deceive you that it's really real and they don't like each other and all this stuff. And I think it's silly. And I think you don't get to really appreciate how talented these wrestlers, these commentary people are, these people doing all these jobs in wrestling are. I mean, they're on the level of actors and all that. They're
Yeah.
doing their own stunts. There is
Yep.
no cut. The traveling alone is enough that'll,
Yeah.
dissuade a lot of people. So I think I wanted to do it to show everybody, yes, this is what goes into it, and it is a unbelievably hard endeavor to take, but it's art and it's theater. It's theater.
And I'm glad you brought up it's a hard endeavor to take, because I think a lot of young fans that love the industry sometime like wonder to themselves about, oh, maybe I would join a wrestling school. I know when I was like 18 and 20, I thought about it too. What do you feel is like the biggest misconception for people that want to start training? Is it like getting used to the pain threshold of it? Is it the cardio that's necessary? And do you really need to kind of already be in kind of shape before you even start doing this?
Now I tell everybody, start as soon as you can. I Because here's what happens. I get this all the time. People will contact me and be like, I really want to join, but I'm going to wait a couple months until I get in shape. So I go, okay, how old are you? And they go 22. I go, in 22 years, you're not in shape, but somehow in the next 90 days, you're going to magically be ready to take this on. I was like, or you join here and then we slowly acclimate you into our program and then have you ready and beyond ready in 90 days. So that's the big thing. We don't try to kill people, like when we first started out back in probably 2012 and 13, we were going to run you into the ground. But then I found out that what was happening is I was scaring off good people that just had bad directions before they got here.
Yeah.
So then I was like, all right, let's slow this down. Let's make it good for everybody. And then we'll make sure the people that we're losing are the people that we really never wanted in the first place.
And it's good.
So that's how we try to do our training now.
And that's good to hear, because I've watched the documentaries. You hear the horror stories about some of the stuff that people dealt with, and it is, and that's what some of the stuff that I've seen from the show, that it does seem fun and enjoyable and all kinds of things. And speaking of the show, on one of the episodes that I did see, it focuses on some of your best prospects. But what percentage of people actually make it from, like, say, day one of training to actually going on, trying matches, traveling the road a little bit? Is it a fairly small number that actually get from step one onto like making an actual career?
Yeah, it's very small. I mean, it's very small. I mean, your odds increase when you train with us, of course, and I'm not just saying that. Like that's the facts. I mean,
Yeah.
there's a very small percentage of athletes that go on to play pro sports, but if you go to Miami University, odds
Yep.
are your odds increase instead of you go to whatever East Bumble in the Woods University. So that's the way it is. But yeah, I think Larry years ago put out a quote, and I think he like did some kind of math on it, and I think he figured it was like a little over 1% chance of making it.
Wow.
Because I mean, like, and that was when there was territories and stuff. So who knows now? But I mean,
Yeah.
here's what I will say though. It depends on your definition of making it. Is your definition making it going to WWE or AEW? Okay, but here's the thing. I didn't go there. Did I make it? I've been making a living off of pro wrestling for the last, decade or so. And I didn't go to AEW. I didn't go to, WWE. I wasn't in ECW. I wasn't a wrestler for Ring of Honor. So is the definition I'm not successful? Because right now I have my own TV show debuting on Apple TV Plus. What a plug. I nailed that. But seriously, like, that's your, because there's a lot of people that don't want to work there.
Yeah.
Because I really kind of don't want to, because I know they wouldn't let me be myself. And I don't work without being myself. That's why I these people all let me be myself. Like from day one, I just go, you know what you're getting into, right? And they're like, yeah, we know about you. And I'm like, you're sure about this, right? And they're like, yeah. So you can make it. There's so many different ways to make a living off of pro wrestling now, with your merchandise, with downloading, with OnlyFans, with all these cameos and all different ways that you can get your message out there and marketing. And you can do it all right on a phone. Yep. So like the people that aren't making a living from it, I'm more like, why aren't you? Like, you know what I mean? Like there should, the percentage of people making it should be way higher.
Would you say, because you were a fan before you got into the business, you got into the business yourself, now you've been training people for years, making the next stars of the business, would you say, because a lot of people will look at it like, oh, it's just WWE, and then there's a New Japan, and now Ring of Honor got eaten up by AEW, and it's NWA, but it's not a territory, it is not a WCW and an ECW and stuff like that. But you mentioned all these ways that you can still make a lot of money if you're not trying to be the next Stone Cold. Do you think it's maybe now is as good a chance, even a better chance now to really make money than, say, in the 70s and 60s and the territories, 80s?
Oh, yeah.
When there was is it better now?
Yeah, because like I look at it as like right now, like if you're in the music industry, you don't have to have a label to make money. Yep. If you're a comic, you don't have to go on tour and do all this stuff. You could go and do stuff and get TikTok and get revenue that way. So we just have to, what we have a problem with is a lot of the people educating wrestlers today don't talk about the stuff I'm talking about. They talk about like, hey brother, hey brother, and you got to make the towns, you got to do this, you got to do that. But like, that's great, but that was what we had to do. Now there's other ways to do it. So you want to talk about working smart? Our way is working smart. That way is putting in way too much work for not a good return on your investment. That's my take on it.
One moment in one of the episodes I saw that really stuck out with me, and I think it was with Mimi, was you mentioned, having all the right tools and everything to be a wrestler, but her character wasn't far enough along and from being ready for the big time. While the wrestling itself is hugely important, especially for safety reasons and stuff like that, is that character element, conveying charisma, be it on the mic, conveying your character while you're in the ring and all these things and selling all that stuff. Is that really the hardest part that separates the men and women from the boys and girls in this industry?
Yeah, that is one of the hardest part, because I mean, one of the biggest fears, not only like just in wrestling, but in the world, is public speaking. People are fearful of public speaking. It's more fearful than heights, is speaking in public. So like we try to do away with that right away. Like we'll do exercises where we stick them on a jump box that you do to jump up, for exercising, and we make them cut their promos standing up in front of the class. It stops you from swaying, number one, because if you do, you're going to fall. And number two, it puts you on a pedestal just like you're in the ring, but it takes away from that comfort zone of thinking you can roam around and all that stuff. But yeah, character work. I mean, everything I think about in wrestling, I've never went like, it's that move, it's this, it's that. It was a moment, and that moment was created by a character, and it was created by dialogue and actions and storytelling and the hero's journey, all that stuff. You need that. You can't do that. You can't really teach that by just doing in-ring stuff, and that's what a lot of schools do. But that's also what a lot of students do, because then they go, well, I know I want to make it in wrestling, but this guy's telling me not to worry about the promos and this other stuff with wrestling. He's
Yeah.
showing me all the stuff I want to do, which is in the ring. But then once you're done, great. But where after that? What when they say, here's a microphone, talk. Well, I never did this. Okay, well, here, we need you to do this. Could you write out a promo? Could you tell us your idea for your character over the next 3 months? I never thought of that. Well,
Yeah.
now what? So there's that adage of, hey, eventually the bell rings, but eventually the bell stops ringing, and you're called upon to do a promo or to do commentary or to help out backstage. But all you can do is put on an armbar.
Yeah.
You know?
Now you work on the ground level with these athletes, but in the end, like a parent, you got to send them off to college and send them off to the job market and all that stuff, and make their careers. Now, what is your perspective on your students, like going to, like, say, a developmental system like WWE as opposed to traveling the indies like so many have done before? Do you feel one way is better than the other, or either kind of has drawbacks to it that the other doesn't?
I think any path that a student is going to take, I always say to communicate with me, like just ask me for advice. I say never tell me what you're going to do. Just ask me for advice. Like ask me, say, like, hey, I got this booking, or hey, I got this opportunity. Now, I'm going to say take whatever you feel is best for your situation and your long-term outcome. But at the same time, I want them to ask me my advice, because I could be like, I know you're thinking this, but what about this? It happened just the other day prior to this show launching. I was advising somebody like, hey, maybe you should just wait, because in 2 weeks, the situation is going to be completely different and the goalposts are going to be moved. I was like, so like your game plan should change. The weather report changed. So your game plan has to change. But any opportunity that you get in pro wrestling, you take that opportunity and you make the most of it, and you don't rely just solely on that either. Like this show that we're doing, Apple TV Plus, it was a project we started with somebody else back in 2016.
Oh, wow.
And if all I worried about was this project, think about all the people that got signed to contract between 2016 to 2022.
Yeah.
That was Preston Vance, that was QT Marshall, that was Damian Priest, that was Riddle, that was Camarado, that was Ian Riccaboni, that's LSG, all these people that we would have not given our full attention to because we were so hell-bent on getting this docu-series done. But you just take that opportunity, you move on to the next one, you never tie yourself down unless that's what you want. That's what I tell everybody. You should want to work with people, not for people. And that's what I always try to do.
Now, you may have kind of gave me the answer a little bit, but I still want this specific. Obviously, being on Apple TV Plus is going to blow up the school even more than it already is, but it will also bring a lot of attention to you, your teachings, your ideas and stuff like that. What if WWE, AW, NWA, a brand like that, backed up the money truck, came to you, said, listen, Dan, we want you to either become our top trainer or make the performance center for us and develop the next stars? Would you be willing to kind of leave Monster Factory behind, work in that system, or that freedom that you have now? It's just too good. It's too enjoyable to pass up.
So here's what I would say to them. I'll say to them, if they're watching now, before you contact me, you better have a good answer for this. You've seen what I've done over the last decade. That wasn't enough on my resume, but I got a TV show and now you're calling me. So that's what I'll say to that. You should have came correct before. But, there's always room. But if they let me do what I'm going to do, yeah. But also, no matter what, I want to do this for Apple TV Plus. Like if we're going to have a season 2, I'm in on that. Season 3, I'm in on that. And if somebody else doesn't want to deal with that or let me do this and that, well, then I don't want to deal with it. So there's that. So they better have a lot of answers before they come calling. But they're not going to, because they haven't, like I said, they haven't returned my emails or phone calls in years. And like I said, if they do it for a TV show, then they're just showing their hand, and they're just clowns, and I don't want to deal with clowns.
Now, give me 3 sayings that, kind of maybe you developed just from the going through your own journey in this industry that you have passed on to your students, said to them endlessly to get a message, to get this message across, that they are probably saying in their heads as they go on their journey? What are like the go-to lines that you always telling them, banging in the head?
I got them right now. Invest in yourself. I got them. Like, invest in yourself. Communication is key. And repetition breeds habit. And that can go for good and bad. So if you stick to those three things and listen to those three things, you'll be all right in life and in wrestling. So
yeah, I was just gonna say they work for life too.
Yeah, that's the way I also coach and train. I tell everybody, if you leave here and everything works out, you're gonna leave a better person and have a contract. Worst comes to worst, you just leave a better person. So like what's, how can you lose?
Now, I'm a New Yorker, and I like seeing New Yorkers succeed on the big stage. There's been a few New Yorkers that there's been talent, that they've been acting in art, music, sports, business, all kinds of big names. But when it comes to professional wrestling, there's been names. It's been like names from New York that have been known, but not like a big star. Like, why do you think it is the larger wrestling audience has a beef with New Yorkers? Is it our accent? Is that the problem?
Well, look at MJF.
That's true.
MJF, man, there's your New Yorker. He's a good kid, Like, I'm not a big fan of always staying in character, but I get it, because it's like, I guess like that's his way of sticking out, because he's always in character. But he's gonna hate this, but like, he's a really good dude, and like, I'm so happy for him. Like, periodically I'll text with him and stuff like that, or just give him like a, hey man, that you killed it, or that was awesome and stuff like that. But he's one of those guys that wrestled for me a couple times, and I've known him for years, and he's a great guy, man. I'm so glad everything's going his way in AEW, because I think like he's perfect for that, and I think he should ride that championship for a while and ride this heel turn and stop trying to go back and forth with the crowd and trying to tease the baby turn. Just let you be that heel, man. But yeah, I don't know, man. I can't think of any other New Yorkers though, really. But
yeah,
I mean, like,
right. Damien's great.
Think,
hopefully he'll be the next.
Yeah, like, but here's the thing. Like, let's talk about New Jersey.
Yeah.
I mean, we had what, DDP?
Yeah, Bam Bam.
Bam Bam,
yeah.
And then like it's just like this. Maybe it's just Northeast. They're just jacking
they like
man.
Boston. They like the tri-state. I mean, Cena for Boston. Okay, so that's one. So Boston's out now. Great, thanks Boston. But
maybe it's just the New York, New Jersey, man. Maybe it's just. That's fine. Nobody likes us. We're all right with that. It's New York, New Jersey, Philly. No one likes us. It's not even Pennsylvania. It's just Philly.